Hello, my name is John William Lynch, and this is my CSC 480 assignment 2. I would first like to start out by apologizing that this is being turned in a bit late. I can explain why that was. I started my assignment 2 last week, and I had modeled it as board, box, and dot and edge. I realized I was hitting a wall eventually, and I couldn't get my AI to run at all. So rather than turning in a program that didn't work whatsoever, I attempted to pretty much refactor my code in the past 3 days to make it work. The way I modeled my array is, instead of using different classes to model it, I simply used a 2D array. I explained in depth what's going on behind the logic, but essentially, based on the value that's inside that 2D array, I assign it to a 0 or a -1 or a -2 or a -3, which is explained here. And -3s are unchangeable, they're corners, and it's explained there as well. After I get that array, I can explain my line checking. So my line checking essentially iterates through, oops, sorry, wrong one. My line checking checks the X and Y inputted by a user. It checks if that value is acceptable, if it's an acceptable X and Y. And it also checks if it's at the edge or in the middle. The reason I explain it more in here as well, but essentially is that an edge only needs to check one box, while a middle box needs to check two boxes. So based on if it's a vertical or horizontal input, I do some logic here to check it with if statements, and then if it is an if statement, I pretty much check if it's completed, and then I add to the scores there. So to run my code, you simply click play in the main.java, and then you enter in a 2x2, and then you enter in apply as well. I would also like to note, I'm going to give an example of it, but for some reason my AI seems to be doing iteration via or iteratively checking the lines rather than delving deeper and placing a line. So to explain what that I meant by that, if I so when I press enter X and enter Y, and it enters it in for me, if I put one here, the AI puts one there. So I'm going to enter in a line down here, which would allow the AI to put a line there to get a point. If I say 4 and 3, the AI opts to actually put the one to the right of it, which is the iterative call to the one to the right. And I'm not sure I can explain in my minimax algorithm my logic, but I'm not sure why it's not applying the logic properly. But again, if I press 2 and 1 here, we both place the line so we can get the score. And then eventually, once you fill out the entire board, we get a total score and who won, and a little message. So my minimax algorithm is ran in the main function. The run is right here. I move it using the amove, and then my minimax algorithm, it takes in the current board as a node, and it passes it to the search minimax, and my search minimax returns an integer value. So what is passed is a root, apply, integer max and min, which is described in the lecture notes, depth, and then also a boolean, which tells you whose turn it is in the min max algorithm. I start by getting the successors of my node. To quickly show that successor function, I simply create a new node, and I use a priority queue comparator to iterate through, which is described up here. So each node has its own priority queue comparator as well, and the comparator is simply the heuristic of player score minus AI score. And then I check if a horizontal line could be added or if a vertical line could be added, and then I add that vertical horizontal line, and then I do my cleanup of adding children and adding parents. So after I get the successors, I get a children array list from that start node. So my start node with its custom array list now has all the children. This is my base case, so if the depth is greater than the apply, you don't want to get that, so then you just simply return the heuristic of player minus AI. If it's not the base case, we check whose turn it is. So if it's Max's turn, we set it to beta, and then we iterate through every children inside of our start node item. We do the recursive call here. We increase the depth so we don't get infinite loop, and we set it to true. And the reason we set it to true is because this is Min's turn, and we want the next turn of the recursive call to go to Max. So then we simply check if the value that we found here is less than the best value, and if it is, that's obviously the minimum that we want, so we set that there. If this value that we just set that we now found is less than a beta overall as well, we set that beta to that one because that's the best type of beta. And this is my alpha pruning method. It simply checks if the beta is less than or equal to the alpha, and if it is, we don't want to go down that tree anymore, so we simply cut that off as well because we don't want to be going down a node or trees that's just going to return an insufficient value. After I do that, I do my current node heuristic, which is the value of player minus AI, and I return that value. That value is then checked throughout all of the nodes of the of the nodes of this class, and once it's checked, it's going to be checking the heuristic of children in comparison to the heuristic of the determined best file from up there. Yeah, and after that, it returns the x and y, and then the x and y are passed into this logic that I've laid out for putting on my board. So again, I apologize for this being a bit late, and any explanation or evaluation as to why it seems like my AI is doing it iteratively rather than recursively is much appreciated. Thank you.